Hello students, welcome to the third video of topic 3 from module 2. In the previous video, we learnt about AWS Lambda permission overview, which includes the execution role, identity-based policy, user policy, and resources-based policies. In this video, we will learn about VPC-enabled Lambda. We will begin with VPC networking for Lambda and various ways to connect the Lambda function to our VPC. We will also learn AWS Private Link. VPC networking for Lambda. Amazon VPC, Virtual Private Cloud, is a logically isolated virtual network in the AWS cloud, specially dedicated to our AWS account. We can use VPC to create a private network for our resources. A Lambda function always runs inside the VPC owned by the AWS Lambda service. AWS Lambda applies network access and security rules to this VPC. It also maintains and monitors the VPC automatically. If our Lambda function has to access the resources in our account VPC, we need to configure the function to access the VPC. AWS Lambda provides hyperplane ENIs, elastic network interfaces. The Lambda function uses these hyperplane ENIs to connect from the Lambda VPC to an ENI in our account VPC. The hyperplane ENI is the managed network resource created and managed by the AWS Lambda service. The VPC and hyperplane ENI are free of cost. Only some VPC components like NAT gateway incur cost. Connecting Lambda function to our VPC. By default, the Lambda function is not connected to VPCs in our account. When we connect a function to the VPC in our account, the function cannot access the internet unless our VPC provides the access. Resources in our VPC are accessed by Lambda using the hyperplane ENI. The hyperplane ENIs issue NAT capabilities from the Lambda VPC to our account VPC using V2N, that is VPC to VPC NAT. Connectivity from the Lambda VPC to our account VPC is provided by V2N, however, not in the opposite direction. When we create a Lambda function for each subnet in our function's VPC configuration, Lambda allocates a hyperplane ENI. If the multiple Lambda functions share the same security group and subnet, they can share a network interface. To connect to another AWS service, we can use VPC endpoints for private communications between our VPC and supported AWS services. To route outbound traffic to another AWS service, we can use a NAT gateway. We can provide internet access to our function by routing outbound traffic to a NAT gateway in a public subnet. AWS Private Link. AWS Lambda supports AWS Private Link. With the help of AWS Private Link, we can create, manage, and invoke Lambda functions securely from inside our VPC or on-premises data center without connecting to the public internet. Earlier, to call a Lambda function, VPC used an internet gateway, network address translation, that is NAT gateway, and or public IP address. But now, the call is routed through the AWS private network, eliminating the need for internet access. This is all about the VPC-enabled Lambda. In the next video, we will see how to write a Lambda function. See you there, students.